but it isn't cut and dry, and especially on amps under $500 like it used to be. So this is kind of a fun one, and it has 3 notables that I'll get into that differentiate it from the vast sea of other desktop-sized Class D amps. First of all, kudos to Douk Audio. This one comes in a new shape and color, actually. The build quality on this one is, at the very least, top 3 of these that I've had in. The knobs feel good. It has a heavy feel, just the right amount of resistance, and everything just feels pretty solid in general. And the orange on gray is actually a good look here. I feel like Douk should really push forward with more products like this. They stick out a little bit from the pack, you know, everything else being little black boxes. So notable number 1 here. Almost everyone right off the bat is going to come in and say, why does this have 2 volume knobs? And while I can't say for certain why they went this direction, I can give you a few reasons why it might be beneficial to you. Number 1, maybe you have bad ears. And I'm talking hearing loss in one or both ears. If you have hearing loss in one ear, this is going to allow you to dial in closer to a balanced delivery. Now I'm reading your mind and you're thinking, yeah, guy, but just give us a balance knob. And yes, I agree. But at the same time, it could be argued that a volume plus balance arrangement would bring in 2 potentiometers into the signal path instead of 1 per channel. Is this going to make a difference on something like this? Probably not, but a clean signal path is a clean signal path. The last reason I can think to justify this might be that you're not sitting in a perfect environment that allows you to have exact measurements between the speakers and yourself. With the dual volume control, you can simply dial in the center imaging. Once again, yes, I know, balance knob. In all reality, what I'm going to suggest here is to set your volume on the amp and then just leave it alone. It's unrealistic to think you're going to adjust both of these each time and hone them to your liking. Just have something like a Weem coming in through the RCA, doubling as your preamp. It's capable of all your volume control needs and actually gets you a remote as well. That or use a DAC with volume control. So many of them have it, and just treat this as a power amp because I think that's really the intention here. Okay, on to notable number 2. And to distract you from those dual volume controls, I'm going to bring in the VU meter. It's more of a novelty as it's a single meter to handle 2 channels, but it's still fun and it looks really nice on the amp. You may notice no movement from the needle when you first get this out of the box, and that's because there's a sensitivity knob right beside it. Expect to crank that up to about half or 3/4 to really get the needle lively. To pull you aside for 10 seconds, please throw me a like and subscribe so I can fix global warming. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get these numbers up so that I can do more giveaways and fun stuff like that. I have a boatload of reviews in the queue, so just stay tuned. Also, comment down below if there's anything you're curious about as far as new products, upgrades to equipment, or DIY builds. Always nice to get some ideas from the community. Okay, on to notable number 3. This is a truly integrated amp with dual selectable inputs and volume controls. This is one of the few desktop-sized amps that includes a switchable RCA and XLR input. The vast majority of these only include a single RCA input, so this honestly kind of puts it a step above the others if you want to integrate more gear or use something that uses XLR. I myself have several pieces of gear I could use for something like this. One example would be to bring in my DMPA6 into it through the XLR connection, which could handle all my digital duties and function as a preamp. I then still have an option to bring in a turntable into the additional RCA. Basically, more the merrier as far as connection options go for myself. Some other noteworthy points here before jumping into the sound review. The amp choice on this one is a favorite of mine on these amps. It's the proven and tested 3255 that is used in many of the popular designs today. It's actually one of the things I look for on these. This one is fed with a 32 volt 5 amp power supply, which is a little above average that is generally included with these. You could push this up to a 48 volt supply. There's a number of options out there, but just do your due diligence first, as many of these off-brand power supplies don't produce what they advertise. The included power supply in this one will produce roughly 80 real watts at 4 ohms and around 50 at 8. It's not 600, but 80 usable watts is actually a great number that will drive almost anything as long as you don't live in a warehouse. And if you want to get frisky, pick up that 48 volt and push it. You should see over 100 watts per channel. This one also has RCA pre-outs, so you can connect this to a powered sub of your choosing without the need for any 3.5mm adapters like a lot of these have. The RCA outs won't have any internal filtering for the sub frequencies, but that's not a big deal as all of these crossover adjustments are covered on basically all powered subs today. So you really shouldn't have any problems there. Now let's get into the sound review. I think the perfect pairing for an amp like this is going to be something more on the warm side. As I write this, I'm listening to them on a pair of Polk LSIM 703s. It's a great speaker, but certainly not a detail hunter. It's a warm sound with great extension. Now we bring in the Douk H7, which during my experiments, I found it to be a little bit brighter up top, and it's certainly explainable. It's a commonality of many of these small Class D amps. There's a tendency to accentuate the high frequencies above a 4 ohm load. The frequency response will vary depending on the load connected to it, and that's why it's really important to note what speaker you're referencing when you offer your critiques on these. But like I said, the Polks are a warm speaker, and the amp has a little bit of shine, so really it can be a great opportunity to bring them both together right into a really enjoyable zone. The amp paired with these speakers sounded really good to me and delivered more than enough wattage to overpower my room if I wanted to. The bass reproduction was really good, the treble was dialed in with my pairing, and the soundstage was spot on from my seat. If I was going to offer up a redo on this one, I would probably say let's just drop the dual volume controls. It's a bit cumbersome for many users. It does work, and I feel like it does have value for the right people, but I think it's best to keep it simple on something like this. It would also be kind of nice if the VU meter sensitivity knob also doubled as a dimmer or off switch for it. Say when I turned it fully counterclockwise, it would just turn off the light for it. I like it, and I do think they implemented it really well in the amp enclosure, but sometimes it's just nice to dial down the lights. Beyond that, I really don't have anything else. To me, this was a really well-built amp, a step above many of the others as far as creativity, and just a really solid feel to it. A nice trend we've seen over the past couple years is price and sound don't necessarily correlate. This isn't one of those where you just shop for the most expensive and expect the best sound. I fully admit the more premium designs can and do sound better in most cases, but it isn't cut and dry, and especially on amps under $500 like it used to be. You can put together a really fun system at a very accessible price point these days. A really simple example would be this amp, pair it with a new Weem Pro Plus, so you get the upgraded DAC, no real need for an external, and plus you get a remote. That will cover your streamer and preamp functions for volume control. Then just pick a speaker of your liking. Maybe aim for something on the warmer side. If you're shopping on a budget, the ELAC BS41 can be had for around $130 and is plenty warm. I might stay away from the Sony SSCS5. I don't feel like that one would pair so well unless you're prepared to do some EQ. But in all reality, you could likely get away with that too. The latest Weem update brought in a parametric EQ, so your options are really open here. My point is, have some fun with these. Whether you're building your first system, just experimenting with Class D, or putting together a second system in a different room. I feel like a lot of people I know playing with these are setting up a second system in their office, garage, bedroom. I've even had a couple of people say bathroom. So you just do you and keep on listening. Thanks for watching today. Please like and subscribe if you're into this kind of content. I would appreciate it as always. Take care and talk to you later. Oh, and don't forget, let me know down in the comments if there's any products that you're aware of, anything you're interested in, DIY projects, upgrades, things like that. Let's hear what the community has to say. See ya.